Wonder Tribe, what's up? We are back with another video today about the topic of being authentically you. Now, the reason I wanted to touch on this topic, even though, it's a very cliche thing to say, is that I see so many people around that are just afraid to embrace who they really are and embrace the things that they actually love to do, right? So a big reason for me creating Wonder Child Studios is to embrace that childlike wonder. And to embrace that childlike wonder, you have to be able to fall back in love with the things that made you unique. When you look at a kid, like a young kid that, hasn't really been conditioned, they're just all over the place. Their imagination is crazy. They want to play games. They don't have a care in the world about looking dumb. And they just gravitate towards whatever they want to gravitate towards. If they love video games, they love video games. If they love anime and ice cream, they love anime and ice cream. They're not worried about what the next person thinks. And then at some point in our lives, we hit that point. We hit that point where we start caring too much about what other people think of us. We start putting on a mask because we're just not okay with being ourselves. I am 100% okay with being myself now. And it took me a lot of work to get here because of some subconscious things, or maybe even conscious things. Maybe I was scared to show the world who I was and whatnot. But again, that's the reason why I started this channel, to bring people together so that we can have fun being unique, have fun being imaginative, have fun being a little weird. Social media has made it so easy for the popular opinion to always win. If something is popular, everybody likes it. But the second it's not popular, it's not cool, and then we don't want to admit that we like the things that aren't popular. It's a crazy phenomenon. It's groupthink, and I think this groupthink is really killing our society. Pre-social media, I think there was a time where you just naturally gravitated to what you liked. So people would meet at the roller skating rink because they love skating. People would go to the basketball courts because they love basketball. And it wasn't like this big thing of like, oh, I have to fit in, or I have to meet this trend, or I have to impress this person. People were just them. And I think we need to go back to that. We have to love being ourselves. We all have a gift, and we all have uniqueness to us. And the similarities and the differences make life fun. It would be terrible to live in a world where everyone thought the exact same. But I think, and look at my friends, we all don't think the exact same. And that's okay, because we can talk about things and have debates and have, different, qualities of conversation. But at the end of the day, to me, just being yourself is so amazing. It's so freeing, to be able to take that mask off and to be who you are whenever, no matter what or who is watching you, and just being able to love yourself fully and authentically. So we all need to get back to this point. So let's get into a little story time about myself right here. All right, so one thing that I did personally that really helped me to embrace myself, and I think changed my life forever, was I joined an acting class. I grew up really quiet, really introverted. Like, you couldn't get me to show any type of personality in public. But as a kid, I'll tell you, like, my imagination was all over the place. Like, I loved to play pretend. I always would have swords and wands and all these different little costumes of superheroes and everything. And by myself, I was just having the most fun. But the second someone else was looking at me, because of my fear of being judged, because of all my insecurities, I would hide, right? So growing up, people would always wonder, like, Darian, do you have a personality, or are you just serious all the time? And, on the outside looking in, I was just serious all the time, so nobody would believe it. But then inside, and when I got by myself, I was just always full of imagination. I always loved art, anime, drawing, like anything creative, music. I loved it. So coming out of high school, when I had some injuries in college playing basketball, I decided to join the acting class to, get out of my comfort zone. And the thing that I found in this class was something very important. It was the ability to have adults come together, and we all just had fun, and nobody was judging each other because we all looked at each other as the same. We were all creating art. We were all getting out of our comfort zone, doing the craziest, darndest things in front of each other. And then, starting off, like, of course, I was like, oh, snap, like, this is not for me. But then over time, I built the capability to, be able to just be comfortable and have fun being myself. So what I want people to take from this is putting yourself out there is freeing. It, with repetition and over time, you'll enjoy being able to bring out that inner child, being able to bring back that imagination that you had when you were a kid, and just get over that fear of judgment. So many times we just have so much fear of people, like, what do they think of us, or are they going to make fun of us? But it doesn't matter, because in the grand scheme of things, you have to take your mask off by yourself eventually. So why not start now? And again, being authentically you is your contribution to society is going to make your story that much better when you are who you are and not who people taught you to be. So I got this quick little monologue that I came up with inspired by this. Let's get right into it. Have you ever been tired? Tired of not being who you are? Having to walk around and show people parts of you that don't even really exist? Because I am. I'm tired of not being me. Tired of carrying this pain of having to hide who I really am. I'm done. I'm going to be myself. And if they don't like me, they can kick rocks, because I'm tired. I'm tired of wearing this damn mask. There's no point of being me if I can't even show it to the world. So if they don't like me, I don't care anymore, because life is too short. And I am a little weird, but that's okay, because I'd rather be weird than to be accepted for somebody that I not truly am. I'm finally taking off my mask, and I'm finally going to show the world who I really am. So what I really want for you guys to take away from this video is be you. Even though sometimes it might be painful, we're going to get made fun of, you're going to get judged. And a lot of times you're not getting judged because people genuinely don't think that you're like cool or anything. It's usually out of other people's insecurity, because they want to be themselves as well, but they're not comfortable in it, right? So the journey could be painful. What's worse than living a life to where you cannot be yourself? So like, really think about that. You're somebody who's born with a unique genetic code, and you're not even using your uniqueness. You want to conform to someone else's code. You want to conform to someone else's makeup, right? God made each and every one of us unique and special. And we are just so programmed to believe that embracing that specialness isn't worth it, or maybe that is not worth it, that is just too hard to deal with other people, right? So we have to work on it. So let's take some steps, right? One step we can take is identifying the mask, identifying the parts of yourself that you hide from the world. Maybe you have certain interests, or maybe you have a type of music, or maybe you have a certain hobby that you might feel like isn't, going to be accepted, but uncovering those things. Maybe it's the way you dress, maybe it's the way you talk, maybe it's the way you walk. I don't know. We all have something, but figuring out what that thing is, and then coming back to it, and trying to find that acceptance in it, and that your attraction to it is a beautiful thing, right? Another thing we needed to do is find a tribe. Find a group of people who are okay with not having to be the cool kid all the time. Go around people who like to joke, who like to have fun, who got that childlike wonder. Again, the biggest reason for the creation of Wonder Child Studios is so that us as adults can go back to how we were as kids. And that's free. That's embracing our uniqueness. That's having fun, laughing, joking, just, having that perseverance, and going from wounded to imaginative. So finding that tribe of people who also want the same, who you can share those passions with no doubt that they're going to judge you, who you can share those things with that, that make you feel loved for being just who you really are. Another thing we can do is, embrace that it's a lonely journey. Being authentically you is going to put you in a small percentage, especially in this world of social media, right? We have this hive mind thinking that everybody just wants to be a part of, like everybody just wants to be accepted. So when you embrace your unique authenticity, you fall into this small category. So you need to embrace that, the journey might be a little lonely at times, but at the end of the day, it's going to be more fulfilling in the long run of you being a little lonely for a period of time until you find your tribe, versus having to conform and, drain yourself from being someone that you truly aren't, right? Stop being cool. Or let me not even say stop being cool. Let's change the definition of cool. Cool is not what everybody else thinks. Cool is being you. Being authentic is cool. Being authentic is fire. Being authentic is whatever you want to call it. But that's what we need to strive for. Being truly ourselves. Taking off that mask. Finding our tribe. Embracing the isolation that comes with it. And then the last step is we got to put in our reps, right? We can't just say that we want to embrace ourselves and not do it. We got to walk the walk and talk the talk, right? Take steps. So maybe putting yourself out there a little more. Do what I did. Join an acting class. Do something that's way out of your comfort zone. That's always something that you wanted to do. It could be going to see a movie by yourself. It could be uncovering something that you did as a kid that you put away because maybe you got bullied for it. And maybe those scars are still there. Take steps, man. Baby steps. It isn't going to happen overnight, but let's try to work our way through to getting back to who we were as we were children. Let's embrace our uniqueness. Let's have fun being ourselves. And if no one else loves you for who you are, I do. Wonder Child Studios is here for all you guys who feel like you don't have that tribe. Let's form it here. This is the community I want to build of people who are okay with going back to that childlike wonder. So if you learn anything from this video, give me a comment. If you agree, give me a comment. Give me a like, please. It really helps me. And yeah, shout out to the Wonder Tribe. Let's come together and let's bring our imaginations back. Be you. See you soon.